Hello, everybody. My name is Nico Freitag. I'm the business development lead here at TechnologyCatalogue.com. I'll be acting as a somewhat host today for 3 speakers and make sure that your questions are being read out and answered. Just some basics quickly. In terms of an interaction, there will be a Q&A. Actually, this bullet point is wrong. I see this. Apologies for that. The Q&A will be not at the end, but at the end of each presentation, because we have 3 today. The content will be provided afterwards in a wrap-up email, so we will reach out to all registrants and attendees of today. And the third point is a basic also where to find technologies on TechnologyCatalogue.com. That nicely segues me into the agenda of today. I will give this quick overview, and I'll keep it very brief. And then it's my pleasure to have 3 presentations today. So the regular attendees of our webinars will see today is not 1, but 3 presentations. First is RedEye, Chris Ryan, General Manager. Second, Kanepi, Martin van der Gießen, who is Business Development Manager. And last but not least, Frontier Automation and Jochen Franke, the CEO, will hold that. And as you can see, this slide is a bit outdated, so the Q&A will be cut in 3, 5 minutes each, sitting after each of the presentations, which should lead us to around 60 minutes. And there we go. All right, so TechnologyCatalogue.com. If you go to the main page, you will be treated to this picture. You will see in red the box, select your industry, where you can browse through our different technology models. Below that, a nice new add-on, we have added X industry trends, because we've realized that some things as health, digitalization, topic of today, or CO2 reduction are industry trend or are trends which hold true across industries. So we've added that. And below that neatly sits our new scheduled, the recently added technologies. If you know what you're looking for, you can obviously use the search bar at the top. But today we were to click on the digitalization tool, which kind of looks like this. And if we click on that, it brings us right into the catalog. And as you can see, we're growing by the day. So here we can spot in red Kanepi and Frontier Automation sitting in there. And we actually have to scroll a little bit further to find RedEye's 2 technologies. RedEye has made use of our offer to list unlimited amount of technologies for free. And if we were to click on one of them, and I've just taken the liberty to choose RedEye here as an example, every page looks the same though. In red, you will see a quick description. Just below that in blue, a pro and con list, very straightforward. In green, resting below are the specifications. On the right next to it is the contact form. So you can either call, go to the website, or contact the supplier through the chat box right below. And we will also make sure that that message reaches the supplier. And if we scroll down, we see a few more specs, the relative business impact, technology readiness level. And then what I personally believe is one of the strongest points of what we can offer is this green box. We can, or the suppliers can show who has already deployed the technology and also invite tech experts or ex-clients to write a review on it. Because we strongly believe that is the number one thing, how suppliers, especially in the early stages, can establish themselves and show their credentiality and credibility. And this is really pretty much what we do. And I've kept this very short because it's my great pleasure to have our first speaker already on it. So this is Chris Ryan from there he is. Good afternoon to Australia.
Hey, good afternoon, good early evening. How is everyone?
Very, very good, I hope. I see the chat box is living up. People are tuning in, saying hello. So yeah, without further ado, I'm looking very much forward to your presentation.
No problem at all. Let me just bring it up for you.
Absolutely.
So everybody, I'm here today to give you a bit of a background about RedEye and about our digital transformation solutions for asset operators, so that you can actually start to make a little bit of sense with regards to the amount of information that you have and how it can actually get a fast return on investment. So as the introduction, my name's Chris Ryan. I'm the channel manager for RedEye Apps. I've had a long career in IT. Believe it or not, that photo doesn't really show that I'm only 22. But anyway, my contact details for my LinkedIn profile are there via the QR code. My career has been built around basically disrupting the industry and basically bringing technologies to business problems and helping people understand how that they can actually use technology to better their organizations. I'm going to hit you right up front with a return on investment calculation from one of our resources clients. We went through with this resource customer, had a look at all their information, surveyed their organization, worked out what they were doing. And then when we put in RedEye, they went away and actually did a post-implementation survey of their own and came back and said they actually are now getting 4 times faster access to information and are saving nearly 10,500 hours annually for having better access to the right information at the right time. And part of that's obviously a deduplication process, which I'll touch on in a little bit. But some of our other clients that we also have here are mentioned on the screen. We have tier 1 asset owners from around Australia, New Zealand, Turkey, Papua New Guinea, South America, North America, all over the world who are now utilising our services. But what are the services that we do? What is the actual root of the problem on why people are talking to RedEye? Well, it pretty much comes down to this. The average customer can't find the information that they need when they need it. They have seen an impact in their organization for having the wrong information when they're doing their work. And most of them all believe that mobile access to engineering information is actually going to increase their productivity. So when we break it down across all the areas of our organization, so power, water industry, resources, etc., the average comes in at 67,000 Australian dollars in weekly productivity improvements just by giving faster access to the right information. But why does this problem actually persist? Why does this actually happen? Well, when you have a piece of information, here we have a drawing, all right? People print it out. The projects team use it, the planning team use it. They look at doing upgrades with assets. The maintenance team want to have a look at the information before they go and do their work. And then people photocopy it. So you'll find copies of drawings in binders, in offices. They'll be in workshops. They'll be in the work vehicles that are traveling around the place. And then when you're doing your asset upgrades and you put a transmittal out there with all of your drawings on it, it goes into somebody else's inbox. They then share that information. So you've got one drawing, which all of a sudden is everywhere. People are interacting with it. People are working with it. How do you know exactly which one is now the right one? Well, that's where the problem comes from. IDC have even basically said that most organizations are losing 2.5 hours a day just looking for information. So what we've aimed to do with our solution is actually reduce this down to minutes. So giving all your engineering teams and your site service staff and maintenance staff that much time back, how many more jobs could they get done? So what are the major impacts? Well, cost. You've got to do rework. You've got downtime. You've got to redraft drawings. You've got to retrain people when things change. You use specific systems and you have large training implementations and costs associated. You have to have regulatory requirements associated that you have to meet. There's safety problems that you have to try and report on and basically try and mitigate. You need to be able to do your work efficiently and you need to be able to deliver your projects and your maintenance services effectively. So RedEye actually does all of that. We give you collaborative cloud-based tools. So your engineering team, your maintenance team are looking at the same information. A person out in the field might be doing some work, needs to do a markup. They do it in our system. It gets submitted into a workflow and the engineering team get it immediately to have a look at and review. So any changes that happen through maintenance schedules can actually automatically be addressed associated with how that impacts upgrades. We have native mobile apps for users, so we increase mobility so people get more access to more information when they need it. We digitize all your business processes so that when you're submitting changes, etc., it still goes to the same people. It just comes electronically and in real time. And we also provide a system that gives you great auditability because absolutely every interaction in the system, who approved what, who changed what, is tracked and traced. So if you need to provide that reporting back to a regulatory body, it's out of that single system. So our native mobile apps are built around iOS and Android. The applications are available on both platforms for phones and for tablets. So one of the key things that we do with those things is we look at QR codes. We have customers who are taking the QR codes out of the searches in our system and printing them onto either bits of paper, bits of cardboard, but mostly they're getting them etched into steel plates and tags to hang off their assets. So when their maintenance team come around, they do a search, do the QR scan, it automatically takes them to the latest approved drawing that they need to do to complete their job. But we also use QR codes in printed information. So if some organizations still need to print, there are some parts of gas plants, etc., you can't take electronic devices into. So you need paper. On the paper drawing is actually the QR code in the top right-hand corner, so you can review the document. You can mark up on that piece of paper. You then have a special email address, which is there on the left-hand side. You scan it and send it to that email address. That's straight into the RedEye system. It puts it straight into the workflow for approval and publish it as the latest unapproved as-built drawing, all automatically. You don't have to put it in inboxes. You don't have to put it in pigeonholes. It just goes on. The other things that we can do in our environment is that we can actually provide access to view 3D models through the web. You don't need special browsers. You can see the object trees, you can see the properties, you can isolate, measure, do exploded walkthroughs, all the things that you need to do. We also can bring media into the system, and we can extract the special metadata that's built into media and put that associated with the searching functionality so you can find that media. So you can actually have 3D models connected to your 2D drawings, connected to the media for drone footage, etc. that you have. Videos. The videos could also be how-to guides, safe shutdown procedures, and things like that. All of that's available in the system. But the next question a lot of people say is, how do we actually do that if we don't have access to the internet at the time? Well, we thought of that too. We have support for offline work. So you have the ability to work offline by caching the information to your device before you go offline. When you go out in the field and you're away from Wi-Fi or 4G, 5G technologies, you work as normal. You do your markups as normal. You submit them all as normal. And when you come back into range, the system in the back end automatically takes the cache changes and uploads it into RedEye and sends it off to where it needs to go. So why do you want to work with us? Well, we take what is known as the chaos of information, where you've got multiple copies everywhere, data stored in silos. You've got one drawing in this silo in SharePoint, and it's been copied into 6 other working folders for 6 other projects. You've got all of this stuff happening. You're transmitting information out. Your contractors are screaming to get access to information. It's not easy, right? So we take that chaos and bring it into a single cloud repository. We call it a bucket. And we call the metadata as your ability to search. We also have OCR searching available as well. So you can search within drawings, you can search within photographs and things like that. We extract all that metadata for you to search. You can do all your markups online. You can manage your field work more easily. You can actually hive off sections of the information for your contractors so they can see that information, and so can you. It's not copied in other areas. It's just the same information that has been ring-fenced for your contractors to see it. And more importantly, we don't do any user licensing. We have an unlimited licensing model, so that gives you the ability to extend your information across different sections. Our brand promise, which is the real core crux of what we do, is that we want to be an easy solution to work with. We have built the search function around what you would do if you're searching in Google for a holiday location. It is an intuitive interface. It is very fast. You get fast response to information. People can actually spend 10 minutes of training and be up and running like a pro. It's relevant. It'll take your information, and we're delivering something specific to your industry for things that you need to do. And it's secure. We're an ISO 27001 accredited secure system in the back end of our environment that gives people the peace of mind that they need to be able to continue to use our cloud services across the world. And if we have an easy system that's fast, that's relevant, and it's secure, it makes us essential. And that makes us essential to be able to assist your business in its digitization of processes. And more importantly, it makes it essential as a way for you to streamline the way that you work. So in summary, we do digitized business processes. We increase team collaboration. You can have an engineering team in India, and you can have one in California, and the two can be working on the same bunch of information at the same time. You have remote working. One of our clients, basically, when COVID first hit, the comments that they made to us is there was one application that actually worked seamlessly for us when we had to work remote, and that was RedEye. Everything else, we had to log into servers and do this and do that. It was just a headache. Remote working is the new norm, so being able to enable your team to be able to go from site to site to site to do the work that they need to do without having to come back to head office to get information is a big thing these days. We can meet your employee and your contractor expectations for access for information, but once again, we can control access, see traceability, have the auditability, and give you a strong governance model. Of interest for you, there's a couple of white papers on screen at the moment. We've developed a couple over the past year or so. If you're interested in what digital engineering is, our technical director, Jason Lancelot, has written a what is guide with regards to digital engineering. It's quite a fascinating little piece of read. It gives you a couple of pointers and things to think about. And we've also recently released a digital twin technologies for the power industry, which is relevant to water and a lot of other industries as well. But both of those little white papers that are on there, you've got QR codes which you can scan to go and get that access to that information on screen right now. But thank you very much. Once again, my name's Chris Ryan. I'm the channel manager for RedEye. My contact details in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen right now. Chris@redeye.co. You can see my Australian mobile number or scan the QR code, connect to me on LinkedIn and shoot me a message through there. Thank you very much.
Awesome. Thanks, Ryan. That we will also make sure, obviously, that people in the wrap-up email get those contact details. So don't worry, we'll make sure you can reach out to Ryan. And I actually see one quick question coming in from Paulos Sinkamp. He says, looks very powerful. I agree. And it sounds much like an electronic document management system. Isn't that mainstream by now? So where is RedEye's differentiation from competing systems?
Standard document management systems are very, very good at documents. They're very good at having those documents which are not necessarily controlled, that could be able to be shared and edited on very quickly. But if you put an engineering document in a traditional document management system, the ability for multiple people to actually have access to change that engineering document, to be able to review and approve that document, and then be able to then very quickly convert that to the latest as-built is not an easy task in a traditional document management system. So what we find is that most of our customers have a EDRMS, an electronic document records management service, for their corporate documents, and then they still have a solution like RedEye specifically for their engineering data, because it answers a direct requirement for how engineering and maintenance services work on assets.
All right, thanks. I'm seeing the questions are coming in, so I'm actually just jumping on the next one here. But I hope that answers your question, Paulus. The question was from Paul, is to what extent is the document format determining the ease of uploading?
Okay, the ease of uploading. If you've ever done a drag and drop from one folder to another, it's the same principle. Basically, we have an interface which gives you the ability to upload drawings or documents. Depending how it works, you can pick, if it's a drawing, you can pick the workflow that you want to put it in. If it's a document, you can do the same. If it's media, you can do the same or not have any workflow at all. So effectively, you can take a bunch of drawings that are new that you need to upload into the system. You drag and drop it onto the little picture of the cloud that's on there, or you can just go through the standard Windows Explorer kind of model. And the system will then take those files and upload them into the system. So what they then do is compare these files that are coming in from, say, in the drawings environment to your drawing template that's in the system. We've mapped the drawing template, so as these drawings come in, all of the data that's in that drawing title block is actually automatically extracted and added to your metadata to make searching for that very, very fast and very, very quick. If you try and upload the same drawing twice, the system will not allow you to do it. It actually does a bit-byte level comparison of documents, and if it sees the same thing twice, it says, no, I can't upload that. You've already got that uploaded into the system. Okay. So that's the way that we stop duplications happening. Okay,
perfect. I see next questions are coming in, and I'm rushing a little bit for time here, so to stay on track with the time. But Paul is saying, I hear a key feature is quick document modification by the user, but in a technical environment, you don't want that. You need a management of chance process around such changes. Is such a document routing included in RedEye? There you go.
Yeah, it certainly is. We have a very complex workflow tool that goes in, and we actually build it to the customer specifications and their process. So you can have a red line markup done out in the field, which can then go, for example, to a squad check or a group check, which then can get allocated to an engineering specific person. So you might have to go to a civil engineer or an electronics engineer. They can then review and go in depth, and you can have information backwards and forwards. They can send and request more information from the person in the field that actually did the markup. Once you get to that point, they can actually then approve it, send it off to a drafter. The drafter then can make the changes. It can come back in and go through the same process again, and before it gets put to the as-built. So it can be as complex or as easy as that you want it to be. It's fully customizable.
Okay, perfect. I hope that answers the question, Paulus. And then last question before we jump to Kanepi, I think it's pretty much a yes or no answer, is has business picked up during COVID domestically, internationally?
Yes and yes.
Yes, it does.
For us, it certainly has. We've put, particularly over the last part of this COVID for Australia, we've put on several new large utility contracts into RedEye. It seems that the pause for business has given them the ability to actually review what they need to do and be prepared for when the economies around the world start to come out of that lull from COVID. So we've got lots of engagements that are happening through oil, gas, resources, water, power, you name it, pretty much in different parts of the world. So yes, it's definitely been good.
Nice. The world is adapting. That's good to hear. Awesome. Thanks so much. I would say we're gonna head over now to Kanepi. Thanks so much for that presentation, though, Chris. And I will have a look at the chat box. Maybe at the end we address one or two of the questions we've missed now. But now it's my pleasure to hand over to Martin. Martin, I think you're a bit closer to me, sitting also here in the Netherlands than the other two, tuning in from Australia. Looking very much forward to your presentation. And I'm going to tune off here.
Yeah, good day all. Yes, of course, as said, I come from the Netherlands, but I do work for a company called Kanepi, but that has just been taken over by mCloud. And mCloud is a Canadian company and is traded on the stock exchange in Canada, but also will be listed on Nasdaq very soon. It's one of the fastest growing companies in Canada at the moment, and we really differentiate ourselves from similar companies by our subscription-based solutions, which means that when we do projects, it is only monthly fees that you have to pay instead of full project cost upfront. Because of the takeover of Kanepi, it's now an office. We have offices around the world. And from those offices, we supply solutions to multiple segments, both in smart facilities, energy, and processes. Key customers from our side is that are in the oil and gas business. And one of the things that we have is we have a lot of people with oil and gas experience. So I worked in the Netherlands with Shell, but then very quickly moved over to the Middle East and Australia to do innovative jobs, both in contracting and procurement, but also in the hardcore oil and gas business in the unconventionals. My last job with Shell was innovation manager, where I implemented a lot of great new solutions, and that's why I got very interested in joining Kanepi. And now with Kanepi, I am able to do the same thing for many more companies than I used to do. So the presentation that I'm going to hold today is very much to show a couple of things that I think are sometimes overlooked when companies digitalize their processes. And one of the things is that in the old days, you needed to have one provider who did everything because it was very difficult to get to all the data. What you nowadays see is that an integration layer is very easy to connect to all kind of data systems. Another thing is that process digitalization is often forgotten, but is key to get to actionable insights. And the last, but not the least, when you digitalize, don't only look at your current ways of working, but look at how you can really optimize the chain and how you can integrate stuff across the chain. So let me give you a couple of examples of that. When we talk about digitalization, everybody's always talking about actionable insights. And actionable insights, of course, are great to have, but you need a firm base. And the firm base is shown in the triangle there, where you see data at the front, then information, and at the top, the insights. What I see IT companies doing very well, and IT departments always love to do, is show users that there is data. And on top of that, they give you tools that visualize that data. And that's where they then think they have digitalized the business. What we believe is that one of the key things that has to be done as well is that you have to digitalize your processes, because the processes, there's a lot of information in there. If you just think about permit to work, management of change, temporary work instructions, override inhibit management, these are important processes where there's a lot of information stored that can give you insights. If you know how those processes work and you combine it with the data of your operations, then you can come to your insights. And I think that is a key thing. And normally, a lot of these processes, or let me say differently, the IT teams don't normally want to touch those processes because they're more difficult. Because there's actually an issue that you have to either buy a tailor-made solution or you buy an off-the-shelf solution. And both are very difficult. If I start with the tailor-made, of course, there's normally a long time of developing it. And then you have exactly what you need at that day. And then as soon as you make one little change, you immediately have to go back to the guy who made it for you. And the costs are then at that moment in time very high to make even little changes. Off the shelves give us the other problem. It's easy and fast to implement, but it never does exactly what you actually like. So people are not really going to use it. So we have found a way in the middle where you get the good stuff of both by actually having an off-the-shelf tailor-made solution that you configure. In this case, there's no programming required. It is a sheer drag and drop most of the time of how we create forms, how we create the workflow, and how we can show dashboards. But the biggest advantage of this way is actually that you don't need to have expensive upgrades when things are changes. Even super users that are trained in this tool can actually make minor changes themselves. It's when you want to adjust your processes, go ahead, you can do it. And above all, the implementation of this is actually cheap and fast. We do like a permit to work process implementation. We can do in a matter of weeks instead of months this way. And the costs are very good. You can see that this way, it brings the best of both worlds into one solution. And if you then have this solution, then you are not only going to digitize one process, you're actually going to combine it with other tools that are in the market. And I just give here one example where you have an operator ranked, but this can be any other process that I've just mentioned, or you want to digitalize. Yeah. You create that process in the tool that I just mentioned, and then once you have digitalized it, you can actually connect it with a device that you can bring into the workplace. This is called RealWear. It is an intrinsically safe camera and computer that you wear on your helmet. And with this, you can actually gather information. You speak to it, and you have a small little screen on the right-hand side where you can look into, so you can actually see what you're doing. You view data, you view documents, you can enter data by talking to the device and answering the questions that you can see on the screen. You can take pictures, you can take videos, You can even connect to the head office and ask an expert for advice. So what you see here, by digitalizing a process, you're not only adding value because it's now digitally available for searching, but at the same time, you can now actually use a tool to go into the field and do work with this process. There's no need to replicate the data entry at any other moment. Also, the thing is that once you are connected with the Wi-Fi or with a GSM tower, people in the office will see the data stored immediately. If you're not connected to a network, then as soon as the device comes into an area with a network, it will upload all the data at that moment in time. So what you see here, a solution that really gets work done, of course, improves safety, because you don't have to carry around a tablet or anything else. You can do this with your hands free. And if you want to work this on other devices like a tablet or a phone, it can be done as well. And then let me move to the last solution that I want to show today, and that's called Ash. This is another very innovative solution. We all know Facebook. Only Facebook, of course, is very nice for our day-to-day social lives, but this is Facebook for the industry. And what it does, it gives every asset a user in Facebook as well. So the asset can now post items on the timeline here. And the good thing of this is that when we go to the field, and when I, for instance, see something going wrong with a well, or I can see something going wrong with a compressor, I can actually post this on the site, on the timeline of that compressor or that well. I can post pictures. I can chat to people about this problem, and at the same time, when this all is happening on that particular asset, if I want to have something done, I also have here at the top an action tracker integrated, where I can actually say, okay, my colleague X needs to do a certain action for this, needs to do a certain action for that. So this way, it gives a Facebook-like view of our assets. And it's a really intriguing way of working. And especially people who use social media a lot find this very intuitive. And the greatest asset that we see in this is a lot of information gets stored automatically. When you fill stuff on the timeline, it's stored there and it's fully searchable, so you can actually go back. So if in a couple of weeks' time there's another issue on that same well, you can actually scroll back and what happened last time. And you don't have to go into emails, into servers or anything like that. It's very easy and straightforward. So that's where I want to leave it today. I hope you have picked up that don't stop digitalizing your current processes. Look at other innovative ways of digitalizing your companies. Any questions?
All right. Yes, perfect. Thanks, Martin, for that. Very, very clear, I think, presentation on that one. I see that there is no question at the moment in the chat box. If somebody found something unclear, please let us know and we will address that. But I think it was very straightforward. And I think, congrats. Oh, there's actually one coming in. So I'm going to cut that short. It is not fully clear to me what the product is that you're offering. It sounds like a platform combining various data information sources and presenting it to the user. Maybe you could speak to that.
Yes. So what we are offering is multiple solutions. One of these solutions that I spoke about is a way to digitalize processes. So I hope that is very straightforward. Another solution is that what I discussed here is Ash, and Ash is, as I said before, it's like Facebook, but now it shows information from all the systems that you have available. So it doesn't only show the information from a user, but it also shows information from assets, and that is integrated with each other in the timeline. So if you, for instance, have a compressor that trips, the compressor trip will be posted on its timeline, and therefore people can react to it. Okay. I hope that makes it a little bit more clear.
All right, perfect. So yeah, I hope that answers that question. If not, please let us know for follow-up. But yeah, I mean, as a millennial, I obviously like the idea of yes, a Facebook-like platform where you can get up to date and have it all there, and also interact with them. So combine the interaction between different parties with the information and bookmarking. So yeah, I think it's a very...
It really comes to life when you do a demo with it. That that serves it very well. Yeah,
perfect. Absolutely. That's what today is here for, right? For a quick pitch. So yeah, always I think happy to reach out to Martin and schedule a demo, and then he can show you more about that. Perfect. I think that actually segues us right to the third presentation. So last but not least is Jochen Franke. I have here that the camera is not working today, but we have the slides. So there he is. And yeah.
Okay, thanks very much. I'm dialing in from Australia, like the first presenter as well. I'll give you a quick rundown on our 3D port guard system. Get straight into it. So first up, I'll give you a bit of a flavour of what the use cases for it are, so that you can sort of judge whether this is for you or not. It's one system that can really serve different purposes, and they're listed here. So we're an automation company, so we provide automation systems. But for 3D port guard, what you can do with it are the following. So you can either use it as a docking aid, you can use it as a port traffic control system to manage what your traffic actually is in real time. You can use it as a vessel loading safety control, and I'll have some more examples on this later. So this can be different types of vessels, different port operations. It can be bulk carriers. That's our strongest install base to date. Mining, very strong market segment in Australia for us. It can be used for container vessels, oil and gas vessels, onshore, offshore. That's also obviously present in Australia. So when we say for safety control is to track the vessels themselves and determine an alarm on when loading is no longer safe. You can also use it to track vessels breaking mooring, and that is actually the reason for its existence. That's how the product came into being. We had a customer for a different product who had this occurring and looked on the market, stopping this happening again or alarming in an effective way on this. Couldn't find anything, couldn't find a system that was reliable to actually do it. They had a Trelleborg system installed and it didn't work. So this allowed them to actually now stay on top of this problem. Another use case for this might not be for this for this presentation here, but cruise ship embarkation, disembarkation to safeguard passengers while they're doing it, and generally speaking to safeguard infrastructure in a port or at berths, and that's particularly around fenders. So there's often vessels are getting larger and larger, and they're typically the fenders and other elements might not be rated to host these vessels. So our system can be used around that topic. The main features of it are as listed. So this is all a bit wordy, but you'll get some images in a minute. I'll just run you through this briefly, but the system measures and reports on the port environment in the vicinity of a berth in real time. So it watches and detects a vessel coming in. Once it's detected it, it reports on speed and distance and angles to berths. That's basically the docking aid portion of the system. Then it reports when the vessel is moored up, it automatically switches into what we call drift mode. And now it reports on the vessel motions themselves. Once berthing or mooring is finished, it detects it and switches into departure mode. So all of this is completely autonomous and automatic, and if nothing goes wrong, if it's used as simply a tracking and alarming system, then you'll never hear about it. But if something goes wrong, then you will. It's underpinned, everything's underpinned by 3D machine vision sensors. I won't run you through all of this. Keep a bit of leeway on the end of the presentation, but can read up on it in the mail out. Just to show you a few images of what the visualization looks like in a typical installation. So we use the 3D machine vision sensors to completely track vessels in all scenarios. So you can have high tide empty vessels or low tide laden vessels. That's what this slide actually shows. And we're still tracking it in any of these scenarios. So competing offers can't do that because they're not 3D and they cannot cope with these changes in variation in vertical vessel position, for example. All our systems are industrialized PLC based with 2 LiDAR systems, a whole heap of electronic equipment around it. Give you an example of what the installation looks like. There's typically 2 sensors, and you can see a CAT model there showing of what's involved, and they're installed at each of the berths, and you can see that in the photo on the right where the systems sit typically. Some more photos of what that actually looks like in real life. So the sensors basically aim out to sea, and because they're 3D systems and 3D image processing processes all this tons and tons of data into real-time information. This is where it's all coming from. If you lift the hood, that's kind of what it looks inside. We have developed and in-house engineered these housing systems that can also be provided in explosion-proof if it's needed. This is not something you can buy off the shelf. So the types of sensors that we actually use are very recent. They have really opened up the opportunity to do this kind of thing. They come from the autonomous vehicle sector. There's now something in the order of 30 OEMs producing 3D LiDAR sensors. Not all of them are suitable for this kind of thing, but they've only really come to the market in the last 2 years. And they allow us to do these kinds of real-time applications and be accurate and reliable. The in-house engineered protection that we build around these sensors include, this is a more recent installations, and they include pre-cleaning, they include filtration, and they include an air blower to create positive pressure in the housing. So what that all means is you can install this in locations that are very challenging, even offshore, where the sensor doesn't need to get looked at potentially ever, or at least checked once a year, and that's about it. So the approach tracking, just a bit of a visual on what that might look like. If you use it for traffic control, you can do these kinds of things where you always have visibility. You can use it in a control room. You can use it in a remote operation center, which is some of our customers here in Australia are doing. And just another visualization of in approach mode, what you're tracking against the fender. So you can display these on board the vessel, if you like. So a summary on what the approach tracking mode does. A repeat can be used in ports or offshore, conceivable as FPSOs, offshore platforms, You can use it for transshipments of, for example, there's mining operations that do this in Australia, large vessels. And you can alarm in real time on excessive speeds for the operations. So if they're coming too hot, one customer we've just secured in Australia is using this. They're the asset owner and they lease out their port berth operations to a different entity, and they want to check and identify if they detect any damage to, say, fenders. They can go back to the database and identify how this happened by finding which event it was, what the speed was, and so on. It can then be used as a real-time docking aid for pilots or for the vessel master, or as a real-time traffic control, like I mentioned. At the bottom there is what differentiates the system from traditionally used GPS systems, is that you don't have to have the pilot go on board the vessel, bring the GPS, set the GPS up, do all this tracing, where you're never quite in control of all the extremities of the vessel anyway. Our system just does this remotely and 24/7. Just a quick example on a customer, how they set up their own alarm mode in their own systems, which is actually alarming at this point. For the drift detection, there's another summary of what that can do for you. It can alarm on excessive prohibitive vessel motions, which might mean if you have that, you might damage your loading infrastructure. So for our bulk material customers, what that means is the ship loaders cannot get too close to hatches and vessels because it will damage the loading infrastructure, which would be very costly. And yet the loading berths are often exposed, so you do have vessel motions. So we can alarm on excessive 6 degrees of freedom. That's also a differentiator. Other systems simplistic 2D or 1D systems which can't do all of these 6 degrees of freedom, and yet they're usually, you need to capture all of them to ensure that you do have safe loading. For FPSOs or offshore operations, we could report on things like jackknifing, have an alarm on that. Our systems signals could be used to trigger an automatic shutdown. We haven't had a case where this has been done, but it's possible. And again, the same case applies. There's no onboard equipment needed. And that's about the 10 minutes. So yeah, that's all we have time for. If you have a question, fire away.
Perfect. All right. Thanks, Johan. Yeah, also very, very interesting technology there. So if you have questions about it, please let us know in the chat box. I think and the first one's already there. I see the tool is installed at the port side. It records all sorts of things about the vessel. So how can it feed information to the vessel and influence its movements?
Well, our processing determines what the motions of the vessel actually are. The sensors are installed in fixed units, and it figures out the motions of the vessel, which is the dynamic part. Then that information gets relayed through more conventional communication methods. So whatever is available on site to transfer that data, for example, onto PPUs of pilots.
All right, perfect. I hope that answers the question. If not, please let us know. Yeah, I think it's quite a nice overview today that we can see that within digitalization, within the industry, there's so much happening. Very different tools are being deployed and developed. Maybe one question from my side. So, Johan, what is like the main area where you're active now? I mean, this is for the port, but I know you also have other softwares. Maybe you could speak to that in terms of different industries.
Yeah, so we in our starting point was the mining sector, but we now have strong interest from just general ports. So, like I mentioned, this theme of larger vessels entering ports is universal. That applies to container vessels. It applies to just generic trade vessels, and the need to protect the infrastructure, and obviously there has been occurrences where this has happened. I mean, in the oil and gas sector, we would envisage, preventing spillages is probably high on the agenda, but we haven't. We have an install base and have a track record of operating systems, but in the oil and gas sector, we're still at the beginning, so we're open to suggestions.
All right, brilliant. Okay, but yeah, I mean, I think that's just good to note that is also an area you're looking into. So I wanted to bring it up here. If I'm correct, there's a question coming in. Hey, Jochen, thanks. Do you sell or lease the systems?
We have two models of offering the system. We can have an upfront license where the customer owns the system upfront, or we can have an annual license. This is similar to what a lot of software companies do, to have these two options. The annual license fee option reduces the upfront cost, but obviously incurs a cost of a year.
All right, so flexible there as well. Okay, awesome. I don't see any more questions at this point. We are very good on time. And allow me to quickly bring us back here. Actually, there's one more coming up. Apologies. Could be of use in road truck loading base. So this is again for Frontier Automation, the last one, Jochen, for you. Often trucks damage taste, and once discovered, the culprit truck has already disappeared. So maybe if you could speak to that one.
That's not the purpose of it. The area that it tracks is around the berth vessel area, but we do productize our automation offerings, but all our products have started off with a market demand. So if there's a market demand to modify and provide a different product, then we're open to developing that. If there is a scale up opportunity to other customers, then it's something that we might look at. So feel free to fire us an email if you have an application in mind.
I think that's the overall sense of today anyway. So if you have any questions, any further things, please reach out. We will make sure that all the contact information will be provided. The presenters will look at their slides, and I think, as far as I know, is we can also share them with them in a maybe slightly modified version, but that will come in the next days. We'll make sure that the recording is also shared. So if you feel this was valuable for somebody you can also share the recording of this webinar. But I think at this point, first of all, we're great in time, so that's good to see. Thank you, everybody, all three of you, for presenting. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. If there are any last questions or any last words, maybe from the three of you. Otherwise, I would say we can start wrapping up here.
Okay,
thanks
very much.
Talk soon.
Cheers.
Thanks very much, everybody.
Okay, bye-bye.
Enjoy your days.
Cheers.
All right, perfect. Well then, I think that's pretty much it. That brings us to the end of this webinar. And yes, thank you, everybody. Stay healthy, stay safe, and have a great day wherever you are. And till next webinar. Bye-bye.